All right, everybody. This tutorial is called Initials Project, and you only have today to complete it. And so inside Teams, you'll find the assignment, and then I want you to actually click the link to the assignment. So it'll allow me to do that. And here it will take you to the initials with clipping mask. So here are the written steps. You're going to make an 8x12 vertical artboard, or just letter size is fine, and I'll model that for you. Choose a font or type the letter, your first name, example J for Josh, and you can follow these instructions here. I'm going to model them here in just a second, okay? And then you'll also find the video tutorial right here that we're just talking about, okay? So let's get into Illustrator. So the first thing that we need to do is go to New File, and then I'm going to choose this letter document, and I'm going to make sure that my orientation is vertical. If you have something like an M or a W, you can do it this way. Now the idea is that you're trying to use the letter of your name, but it can be any letter you want. It doesn't really matter. This is going to be for print, so let's do CMYK color mode, and let's hit Create. So here we are. So to set this up, I first need to get my artwork in here, and I already have it saved to my computer, so I'm going to go to File, and then Place, and then all I have to do now is locate that artwork, which is inside my downloads. And let's see, I've got the image. Actually, it might be. So I'll just use this, okay, because I don't actually have any artwork. So I'll use that doodle there. And quite honestly, if you don't have your artwork today, what I want you to do is just go to the internet and you can type in doodle designs and then snag one. So I'll just model that here as well. So this one, you need something that's quite elaborate, nothing really easy, like this would be too easy. We need something that's going to fill the space, and so this one looks like it's going to fill the space nicely. I'm going to right-click this and save the image to my computer. I'm going to call this Doodle so it's easy to find. It's in my downloads, and I'll hit Save. And so that's maybe a method for those of you who don't have your image on your computer or don't have like your image. I guess that would be okay. But I would encourage you to use your own image, because that is going to make it sure that it's original artwork. So right now I'm not using original artwork. So when you do File Place, now I can drag this out and kind of have it to fit that artboard there. And I'm going to ignore this right here and just kind of focus on this. So what I might do is I can rotate this. So if I put my cursor to the outside edge using the black arrow here, I can rotate this and kind of make it work for me, and maybe place it something like that. Now remember to hold Shift to constrain the proportions, because you might end up with a squished design. And so I don't know, we won't know until we get our letter on top. So today we're really focusing on the layers palette here, and inside here we're also going to use the type tool. So I'm going to hide this image for a second, and I'm going to use the finicky type tool. The type tool is just right here. Once you click it, you can actually use the hotkey T, and I think it's best if you just click to type rather than drag out a box. And so I can delete that type there, but you'll notice that the box is still there. So in order to delete the box, I have to hit Escape, and then now I can kind of just drag this box where I want it. But ultimately, I just want to delete that box. And so I can use this, or I can delete it. Just knowing how to escape from the type tool box and then how to get back into it. So I'll hit T again, and I'll just click once, and I'm going to type the letter. I'm going to do K for Kern, and it's quite small. And if I want to change the size of this, I need to actually highlight it. And you'll notice that when my cursor's over this, I have a cursor prompt to highlight it inside the box. But when I move it out, Illustrator thinks that I want to make a new box, and so I actually don't want to do that. And so you might end up with lots of boxes on here. And to get rid of those, you just hit your tool right here, your black arrow tool, and you can just select these and then just delete them. So I'm going to use this black arrow to select this and actually go to my type tool. And I want to highlight this or double click it. Just basically want it highlighted, and so I can adjust the size of it. You can adjust the size up here or in your properties panel here, and I'm going to go big, like 1,000. I'm just going to type in 1,000 and hit enter, and that's really big. So a lot of times how I mess up is I hit V to get my black arrow tool, and and whoops, I was still in that type feature, so it actually typed V. So I'm gonna hit Command Z to undo that, or just hit backspace and retype the K. And I need to get out of the type tool, so I'm just going to hit escape and then V, and then now I'm back with my tool here. So there's my K, and I want it to be fairly large. And if I bring back this image here, you can see how the doodle behind it is gonna, you can see how it's gonna maybe fit inside that K there. So few things that I want to do with my K though is I kind of want to thicken it. So there's a couple ways to do that. I'm going to hit T again and then double click my name, and then I could go and actually find a font. I'm going to find Helvetica. I'm going to type in HELV, and I'm going to get this one right here, this condensed black. That's a really thick letter, and that's going to be a great way to fill up the space with your letter. And then one other thing that you're going to do today is then select your letter with your black arrow tool, go up to Object, and then hit Expand. And then this window is going to pop open. It means that we're going to make it an object. It's no longer going to be a type, and we're going to give it a fill, which is just going to be the black, and I'll hit OK. And what actually happened here is that it's no longer a type. It's actually a shape, just like if you were to make a shape like that. Okay, so that means that I can use my white arrow tool and I can change things on my font. I can round all of the edges on that if I want to. I can take this and bring this out, maybe bring this in, maybe make this a little bit diagonal with that. So there's lots of things that you can do. I just want you to have the freedom to do that. Maybe if you just want to make it wider, you can go ahead and do that. So since mine is fairly fat, I'm actually just going to keep mine like that. And you know what? Maybe I'll make something just for the sake of making it. We'll keep it. Okay, so now that we have our K here in place, what we need to do is go click on the properties, and we need to change the opacity value of this. So I'm going to slide this down. The reason why is because we need to see past the K, through the K, so then we can ultimately see our doodle designs, because we're going to be drawing our doodle design and using our K to actually cut it out. And our K is on top. Well, it's not on it is on top. There we go. So it will act as the cookie cutter, the clipping mask to the actual image right here. And then what I also want to do is go select ultimately this layer here and then change the opacity of this. And the reason why we're changing the opacity of both, and you kind of pick and choose your levels here, is because I want to be able to see my drawings when I actually draw them. So if I use my brush right here, I want to be able to see that line. And you can't do that as well when you have the opacity up here. So you can see how that black doesn't really show up. So you just kind of play with the levels that feels most comfortable to you. And so I'm going to stick with that. I can see my K, I can see the doodles, and we're ready to go. So the last thing that we're going to do before we move forward is I'm going to kind of condense that and then lock all of that stuff. So that way it doesn't move when we are drawing on it. And then what I'm going to have to do is create a new layer. You have to do this part. And this is where we're going to be drawing. So I could rename this and call my drawing, and then in this layer I could be called my doodle. Okay, so select this one here. If you can't work or draw on this one, if it's not working, you're like, hey, my tools don't work, it's because you have the wrong layer selected. So I'll make sure that I have this one selected here. All right, back to my properties, and then let's talk about a couple tools that I want you to be using today. I'm gonna delete. Actually, looks like I drew that on that wrong layer. So now I'm going to lock that and then click on this. Okay, a couple tools I want to introduce you with today, and you already know the line segment tool. So if you have some straight lines, which I have 0 in this, you would use some straight lines to help build that. Don't forget all of the things that you've used in terms of like dragging them out. You can change the weight of them, things like that, okay? So we'll leave that alone just like that. So we already know that one. The other tool I want to introduce with you today is the paintbrush tool. And you can draw with your mouse, but it might be fun to grab a stylus today and see if you can draw with it. One trick with the stylus in the paintbrush tool is this thing draws, and I'll show you what the default setting is. Ignore that window for a second. So if I draw, it's kind of looks like a third grader drew that, and we want it to maybe have a little bit more smoothed out line. So I can change the settings. If I click on the paintbrush and double click it, and don't forget the hotkey for the brush is B, I can change the fidelity, and I'm going to go all the way smooth here because it's kind of hard to draw with the mouse, and it might be hard to draw with your stylus. So watch this as I draw on this line right here, and that ends. Watch what's going to happen. Smooths that out. So it's kind of a cool little trick that we can use. And notice I'm going outside the border of the K over here because remember, we don't have to stay inside the lines of the K. The K is going to act as a clipping mask. So you're encouraged to draw these lines outside the edge, just like that. Okay. So I want you to get used to using that tool. You might need to zoom in to really get nitpicky with it. Looks like we've got some lines inside here. So I'm going to use my line segment tool and actually just draw these lines, and I can do those real fast and create that pattern in there. And you know what we're trying to do is just as best we can. We're using the tools, and really what you're being graded on is how much space you filled up and how much kind of care you put into this, because you're learning these tools. I don't want you to treat this as a task. I want you to show some care with this and really take pride in the design and use up the class period. If you're showing me that you didn't do much with the designs, you didn't add any of these details in it, and you can always add more to this than what's in your doodle, and that's okay. In fact, that's encouraged. Remember, your doodle sketch is just a place to start from. It's not the final design. But that's what you're really being graded on, that you use the 90 minutes to first set this up. So you're going to spend about 15 minutes setting this up, but then you're using the rest of the class period to really fill this up. And so I need to see evidence of that, and we'll have a conversation if that's not what you're doing. So that's the brush tool, and you're going to use that a lot. Now, if you want to have a little bit more control, and don't forget with the brush tool, you can change the size of the brush tool. And so I can do that right here. I just double click that. As a hotkey, but I'll share it with you later. So if you wanted something thinner, you know, there is. Here, let's go bigger. Actually, okay, so that is not the way to do it. I only know the hotkey way. So I guess the default there, you could come back and select this line and then change the thickness of it that way. That could be a possibility. So it looks like the default is 1 point. So maybe that would be the best way to teach you how to do it. If you look at your brackets, the brackets that you use to do they're next to the P, so the left bracket and right bracket. If you push your right bracket, it does actually get bigger, and when you push your left bracket, it gets smaller. So if you can figure that out, go ahead and use that, okay? Otherwise, just rely on selecting it and adjusting the size this way, okay? All right, enough with the brush tool. Now let's go to the curve tool. The curve tool is right here, curvature tool. And if you watch the little hint right there, as you click, it kind of creates these shapes with natural curves to them. This tool is easy to use, and it only gets easier. So if I want to, let's do this kind of big S curve right here. And so I'll select this tool, and I'm going to click outside the K here to ensure that I'm filling up the area. And learning how to use this tool is know when to click. And so if it's not kind of working the way that you want to, I'm going to show you a couple tricks. One of them is keep your clicks close to each other. And if it doesn't work the way that you want it to, like this isn't going to match up, you can also hit Command Z to undo, and then maybe click here. Just kind of do small clicks. I think it's good to see how far you can go to see how it matches, and then if it doesn't match, maybe just backtrack a little bit. So that's looking good. And I know that this kind of overlaps, but you might have a difficulty with that. So don't worry about that so much, okay? We're just doing our best that we can. So if we don't accurately get exactly what we want from our doodle, it's not the end of the world. We're trying to match, though, as much as possible, like 90%. And then I can take this to here, and it looks like that ends. Oops. Looks like I connected to that, and I don't want to. So I'm going to hit undo, and then maybe just click to here. I clicked on that pathway, and it ruined it. So I'm going to make sure that I don't do that. Click right there. Now I've got this tethered here still. So to get rid of that, I can hit escape, and then now it's done. And so if I hit my V tool, grab my black arrow tool, I can change the properties of this and make this a thicker line and have the fun and freedom to adjust your colors if you want to. If you're experiencing something that looks like this, it means that you have a fill on this. And so all you need to do is, I mean, you can keep the fill if you want to, but it kind of covers up the rest of the design. So just make sure you're selecting no fill. And yeah, so we'll use that tool again. Maybe this time I'll use this orange here, so another warm color. And I'll click outside my artwork here and just kind of click and click and click and click and click and click. And I don't know where that one ends up, so maybe it just ends up right there. Okay, and then, unless I drew that incorrectly, it looks like I actually drew that incorrectly, so it is what it is. All right, I'll take this one and then we'll cross over here. Okay, so you get the idea with the curve tool. So let's just focus on using the curve tool today and the line segment tool today, and then I'll hit escape, and then the brush tool, and then you already know how to use the rectangle tool, so if you have any rectangles that would be easy to use, and then L for the circle tool right here, so you could draw a circle. So I think I have some dots right here. I could maybe, rather than using my paintbrush to make a dot, maybe what I could do is use this to make it, use my circle tool to do that. Maybe I want like the inside the show, so I can always make those decisions, but actually, I'm going to just use this. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. All right. So we have to pretend for a moment that I've got a bunch of lines in this K. And so what I'll do right now is kind of just scribble on this so you get the idea of what this is going to ultimately look like. So again, you're not scribbling, right? You're following what your doodle is. And you're going to turn in two things to me today. Well, actually, I'll just have you turn in one, and if I need to double check it, what your doodle looks like, I'll do that. So you're going to, now that we've got all of our spaces filled up, we're going to go to our layers. We're going to unlock this. And now for this to actually work, we need to make sure that our K is on top, because remember, we need our K to cut the doodle, the drawings that we did. So I'm going to take my K, and I'm just going to move it up to the top. So I'm going to use my command, I'm going to select my K for one, and so I've got my K selected, and I'm just going to hit my command right bracket. Certainly doesn't want to do that. So there's my K. So in order to get to my K, I've had to go through, so I could hide my drawing, and then I can hide the doodle because I don't need that. Now I can select my K. So getting to know the layers palette and what we're doing here. So now I can select my K, and then, gosh, it doesn't want to go to the top here. So what I'm going to do is drag this. Oh, I see what happened. For some reason it's grouped, and I'm not sure why. So, let me figure this part out. Okay, ungroup. So hopefully yours isn't ungrouped. I don't know why that ended up grouping itself, but it did. So now I can put that up to the top. No, it still doesn't want to go up to the top. Maybe if I drag it up to the top. There. So now it's on the very top. All right. And I'll bring back my artwork. So my K's on the top. And I actually don't want my doodle right here, so I'm just going to hide the doodle, and then I'm going to select everything. You can see my scribbles showed up, or my doodle, and then I have my K on top. So all I need to do now is right click and hit make clipping mask, and so now I've ended up with my K and my doodle inside of that. If you want to have a K to show up on the bottom, you can keep a copy of your K. So what I can do is, well, I don't want to confuse you, so we'll just leave it at that. All right, so it's cut out. All right, so there's my doodle. It's making the letter K. And now what I'm going to do is go to File, Save As, and then go to Save to Computer, and then I'm going to title this my last name. You'll do your last name. Mine happens to be Kern, so you'll do yours, and then I'm going to go Initials Project. All right. I'm going to save this to my downloads, or if you've made a folder on your computer, select your folder, so Graphic Design 1 projects. And then remember, we don't turn in AI files. We have to change this to a PDF, hit save, and then make sure that this box says high quality print, and then we'll hit save PDF. And then now you can go to your folder on your desktop and go to Graphic Design 1, and then there is the Initials Project. So you can see the K is a little bit hard to read if you don't really fill up the doodle space. You don't go outside the line. So that's why it's important that you fill it up with a lot of doodles and using your original design. All right, those are my tips and tricks for today. Just do your best, and I will see you next week. Have a great weekend.